So I was praying one day, and I had these desires in my mind. I've long wanted to move overseas, start a ministry, and start a family. And these are things that God has put deeply in my heart, that I believe He's called me to, that I'm passionate about, and I had these clear opportunities seemingly in front of me. But I was praying, and as I was praying, I had this distinct mental image where I was on this boat, sailing through the ocean, and it was foggy and stormy, but in the distance, peeking through the clouds, I see this island glimmering in the sun, and there's a waterfall and a beach, and it's beautiful, and I'm thinking, perfect, this is where I want to be, this is home. So I pick up my paddles and I start rowing, and I'm paddling and I'm rowing, and I get closer, but the wind and the waves pick up, and I'm closer but further away, and closer and further away, and in the midst of it I suddenly hear this voice, and it whispers to me, and it says, "Michael, put down your paddles and raise up your sails." And I'm thinking, heck no. Why would I ever raise my sails in this circumstance? Where I want to go is right in front of me. It's just within reach. If I hoist the sails, the wind's going to blow, and it could blow me right back where I came from, back out into the storm. And the voice whispers, "Well, who do you trust? Do you trust your own eyes to see what is good and your own strength to take you there? Or do you trust me that I know what is good for you?" So I have this experience, and I'm thinking, like, okay, God, like, I get it, right? You want me to surrender my hopes and my plans and my dreams to you. And in my head, I've got the story of Abraham and Isaac going, right? It's like where God asks you to give up the thing that you desire the most deeply. But when you lay it on the altar, He just wants you to see that you're willing to give it up, and then He comes back around and gives it back to you. And that's what I'm thinking in my head, and that is not what happens. The wind blows, and it takes me right past this thing that I had so deeply desired, and it was shocking. And what preceded was, to this day, the most painful extended period of my life, where I remember for weeks into months on end, every night I'd just be curled up on my bed and crying, and I kind of side-eyed God, and I was like, really? You're the one who placed these desires within me. You're the one who gave me these good and holy desires to do good and holy things. Why are you giving this and now taking it away? I don't just, why? At the same time, I kind of side-eyed myself, though. I was like, were you only going to trust and follow God when He gave you what you wanted? What kind of half-baked, self-glorifying faith is that? I don't want that. I want the real thing. Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I return. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away, but as for me, I will worship the Lord, and I committed to that. That's the life of faith that I want to live. And it's when I started writing music and songs, and the Lord, He never answered any of my questions, but He did offer His presence. And those days, I gained a richness of experience with God in a new way that I could talk about for hours. So I would not trade for anything in the world. But as time went on, and I was still no closer to those things that I really wanted, I began to question and doubt a little bit. And I asked myself, this whole thing, this whole story, this whole narrative I've painted for myself, is that really something that God spoke to me? Or is this just a narrative that I've constructed in order to cope with something that was painful? Like something hard happened in my life, and I painted this nice little story in order to believe that hard thing is actually a good thing. That was actually part of God's plan, and so it's okay. And maybe that's just me wanting to feel that way. Well, then I was praying just a little bit later with a friend. Someone who I just met, who knew nothing about me or my experience or any of this, and we were praying, and she says to me, she says, this might sound kind of weird, but I see this image, and it's you, and you're standing barefoot on a boat, and you're sailing into a storm, and there's this confident and resolute look on your face. And I don't know what this is, if it's something in the past or the present or that's going to happen in the future, but I just get the sense that God is telling you that the storm you're in is a place He's sending you with a purpose, and that He wants you to be confident, steadfast, and resolute. And I broke down. I just started. I never felt so met by the Lord, and I couldn't deny anymore that this was God speaking to me. And this became, from that, a sort of anthem of my life, that I'm going to live a life of faith with my sails raised to the wind, trusting in the character and the goodness of God. And man, it's fun, because I'm still in, honestly, for the most part, the same place, and I still have these anxieties. They'll come up. They'll be like, man, am I gonna be like single forever? Am I gonna be living this life forever? And when those come up now, I just have this sense of like, that's my dad's business. My dad's got that. That's his business, not mine. I'm here to just steward what God has put in front of me, to take joy in that. And man, this being out in the wind and the waves, it's a dangerous place, but it's a free place, and my conviction is that it's a good place to be.